Welcome back, everyone. Let me start with a story that changed how I think about security operations. A few years ago, a mid-sized company got hit with ransomware. Not the kind that encrypts a few files, the kind that locks every server, every workstation, every backup. The CEO called me at 2 a.m. His voice was shaking. He said, "We have backups. We have an incident response plan. We have cyber insurance. Why is this happening?" I asked him 3 questions. When was the last time you tested a full restore from those backups? Silence. When was the last time you ran a tabletop exercise with your executives? More silence. When was the last time you updated your incident response playbooks? He didn't know. That company took 3 weeks to recover. They lost customers. They lost revenue. They lost their reputation. And the reason wasn't a lack of controls. It was a lack of operations. They had a security program on paper. They did not have a security operations playbook. That is what Domain 7 is all about. It is not about firewalls or encryption. It is about the people, processes, and procedures that make security work when things go wrong. It is about moving from a reactive mindset to a proactive managerial mindset. In this video, we are going to cover the entire security operations playbook. We will start with foundational concepts, need to know, least privilege, and separation of duties. Then we will move to monitoring, events, alerts, incidents, CIEM, and UEBA. We will walk through the entire incident response lifecycle: preparation, detection, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. We will talk about forensic best practices, chain of custody, right blockers, and the dangers of pulling the plug. We will compare business continuity and disaster recovery. We will break down RPO, RTO, and MTD. We will explore recovery sites, cold, warm, and hot. We will master the 3-2-1 backup rule and recovery testing methods. We will cover physical security concepts like natural surveillance, natural access control, and man-traps. And we will end with the ultimate tiebreaker: people before property. Here is how this works. For each concept, I will explain it, then I will give you questions. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. I will tell you the right answer and, more importantly, why the wrong answers are wrong. Then I will share the traps that even experienced security pros fall into, and 3 tips to lock the knowledge in. Domain 7 is not about theory. It is about running security like a business. It is about managing operations so that when the worst happens, your team recovers in hours, not weeks. Stick with me, and by the end, you will have a manager's playbook for security operations. Let us get started. Let us start with 3 foundational concepts that every security operations manager must master. They sound similar, but they are not the same. Confusing them will cost you on the exam and in real life. They are need to know, least privilege, and separation of duties. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you work in a hospital. A doctor needs access to a patient's medical records. But does the doctor need access to the hospital's payroll system? No. That is need to know. You only get access to the information required for your specific task. You do not get to browse everything. Now, does the doctor need administrator rights to change the hospital's network settings? No. The doctor should only have the minimum permissions necessary to do their job: view medical records, prescribe medication, update treatment notes. That is least privilege. Not one extra permission. Now, imagine that one person could admit a patient, prescribe medication, and also approve the payment for that medication. That person could commit fraud, or simply make a costly mistake. That is why hospitals have separation of duties. Different people handle different parts of the process. One person admits, another prescribes, another approves billing. No single person can do everything, whether by accident or on purpose. That is the essence of all 3. Need to know is about what information you can see. Least privilege is about what actions you can perform. Separation of duties is about splitting critical tasks so no single person has too much power. From a business perspective, these three work together. Need to know protects data confidentiality. Least privilege limits the damage if an account is compromised. Separation of duties prevents fraud and errors. You need all three. Now, let me ask you a question. A security analyst has the ability to view system logs but does not have permission to change firewall rules. Which principle is being applied? A. Need to know. B. Least privilege. C. Separation of duties. D. Job rotation. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Least privilege. The analyst has only the permissions required for their job. Option A, need to know, would restrict which logs the analyst can view, not what actions they can perform. Option C, separation of duties, would require another person to approve a firewall change, which is not mentioned. Option D, job rotation, is about moving people between roles over time, not about restricting permissions. Now, let me ask you another question. A financial officer can initiate a wire transfer, but a separate manager must approve it before the transfer is executed. Which principle is being applied? A. Need to know. B. Least privilege. C. Separation of duties. D. Privilege creep. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Separation of duties. Two different people are required to complete the transaction. Option A, need to know, would restrict which financial data the officer can see, not who approves the transfer. Option B, least privilege, would limit the officer's permissions, but it does not require a second person. Option D, privilege creep, is the gradual accumulation of permissions over time, not a control. Now a third question. A system administrator has full administrative rights on a server but is not allowed to access the HR database because their job does not require it. Which two principles are being combined? A. Need to know and least privilege. B. Least privilege and separation of duties. C. Separation of duties and need to know. D. Job rotation and need to know. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is A. Need to know and least privilege. Least privilege gives the administrator rights to manage the server. Need to know prevents them from accessing the HR database. Option B is incorrect because separation of duties would require another person to approve access, which is not mentioned. Option C is incorrect for the same reason. Option D is incorrect because job rotation is not relevant here. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company discovers that a single employee processed a fraudulent invoice by creating a vendor, approving the vendor, and issuing a payment. What control would have prevented this? A. Need to know. B. Least privilege. C. Separation of duties. D. Mandatory vacation. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Separation of duties. If different employees handled creating vendors, approving vendors, and issuing payments, no single person could complete the fraud. Option A, need to know, would restrict information access, but the employee already had the information they needed. Option B, least privilege, would limit permissions, but the employee needed all those permissions to do their job. The problem is that one person had all of them. Option D, mandatory vacation, might help detect fraud, but it would not have prevented this single transaction. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, confusing need to know with least privilege. Need to know is about what information you can see. Least privilege is about what actions you can perform. Remember, need to know equals read, least privilege equals do. Second, thinking that least privilege is only for privileged accounts. Least privilege applies to every user, every account, every service. Third, believing that separation of duties is too expensive. The cost of a single fraud or mistake is usually much higher. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the distinction with a simple phrase. Need to know is what you see, least privilege is what you do, separation of duties is who else must agree. Second, on the exam, if you see a scenario about accessing data, think need to know. If you see about performing actions, think least privilege. If you see multiple people required to complete a task, think separation of duties. Third, in real life, conduct access reviews regularly and split critical tasks across at least 2 people. Now that you have a solid grasp of these foundational access control concepts, let's turn our attention to how we monitor what is actually happening on our networks, events, alerts, incidents, and the tools that help us make sense of it all. Now that you understand how to control access, let's talk about how you monitor what is actually happening on your systems. You cannot protect what you cannot see. Security operations is about turning noise into action. To do that, you need to understand 4 terms: event, alert, incident, and the tools that help you manage them, CISSP and UEBA. Let me start with a simple story. Imagine you are a security guard watching a bank of monitors in a control room. Each monitor shows a different camera feed. An event is anything that happens. A door opens. A light turns on. A person walks through a hallway. Events happen constantly. Most of them are normal. In the security world, an event is any observable occurrence in a system. A user logs in. A file is deleted. A firewall blocks a packet. Events are raw data. By themselves, they tell you nothing. An alert is an event that might be important. Your monitoring system sees that the back door opened at 2 a.m. That is unusual. The system flags it and sends a notification. That is an alert. An alert says, look at this, something might be wrong. But it is not yet confirmed. An incident is an alert that you have investigated and confirmed as a security violation. Someone did open the back door at 2 a.m., and they were not authorized. That is an incident. An incident requires a response. You contain it, you eradicate the cause, you recover. Now, how do you manage thousands or millions of events per day? 2 tools help you, CISSP and UEBA. CISSP stands for Security Information and Event Management. A CISSP aggregates logs from across your entire environment, firewalls, servers, applications, endpoints, network devices. It normalizes the data, correlates events, and generates alerts based on rules. For example, a CISSP might have a rule that says, if the same user fails to log in 10 times in 1 minute, then alert. CISSPs are great for known patterns and compliance reporting. But they rely on rules that someone writes. If the attacker uses a technique that the rule does not cover, the CISSP may miss it. UEBA stands for User and Entity Behavior Analytics. UEBA uses machine learning to establish a baseline of normal behavior for each user and device. Then it looks for anomalies. If a user suddenly downloads 10 gigabytes of data at 3 a.m. when they never do that, UEBA flags it. UEBA does not need predefined rules. It learns what normal looks like and alerts on deviations. UEBA is powerful for catching insider threats and compromised accounts that CISSP rules might miss. The best approach is to use both. CISSP for known threats and compliance. UEBA for unknown threats and anomalies. And here is the manager's goal. You do not want to chase every alert. You want to move from reactive event handling to proactive incident management. That means tuning your tools so you get fewer false positives, investigating alerts quickly, and confirming real incidents before they spread. The manager's goal is to reduce the mean time to detect and the mean time to respond. You measure yourself on how fast you turn an event into a confirmed incident and how fast you contain it. Now, let me ask you a question. A user tries to log into a system 10 times with the wrong password. The system records each attempt. What is each attempt called? A. Alert. B. Incident. C. Event. D. Anomaly. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Event. Each login attempt is an observable occurrence. Option A, alert, would be generated only if the system is configured to notify on failed logins. Option B, incident, would require confirmation that this is a security violation. Option D, anomaly, is a deviation from normal behavior, but not all anomalies are incidents. So the correct answer is C. Now, let me ask you another question. A CISSP receives a log indicating a failed login. A rule triggers an email to the security team. What is this email called? A. Event. B. Incident. C. Alert. D. Log. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Alert. The system has flagged an event as potentially suspicious. Option A, event, is the raw log itself. Option B, incident, would require investigation and confirmation. Option D, log, is the raw data. So the correct answer is C. Now a third question. The security team investigates the failed login attempts and discovers that an attacker was using a brute force tool to guess passwords. They confirm that this is an active attack. What has this become? A. Event. B. Alert. C. Incident. D. False positive. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Incident. The team has confirmed that this is a security violation that requires a response. Option A, event, is the raw occurrence. Option B, alert, is the notification. Option D, false positive, would mean the alert was wrong, which is not the case. So the correct answer is C. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A security team deploys a tool that learns normal user behavior and alerts when a user accesses an unusual amount of data at an unusual time. This tool does not rely on predefined rules. What type of tool is this? A. CISSP. B. Firewall. C. UEBA. D. IDs. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. UEBA. It uses machine learning to establish baselines and detect anomalies. Option A, CISSP, typically relies on rules, not behavioral baselines. Option B, Firewall, is a network control. Option D, IDS, detects known attack signatures. So the correct answer is C. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, using the terms event, alert, and incident interchangeably. They are not the same. An event is raw data. An alert is a notification. An incident is a confirmed violation. You cannot respond to every event. You prioritize incidents. Second, relying only on CISSP rules and ignoring UEBA. Attackers constantly develop new techniques that have no existing rules. UEBA can catch what rules miss. Third, drowning in alerts without a triage process. If you get 10,000 alerts a day, you will miss the real one. Tune your CISSP, prioritize, and investigate. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the progression: event, alert, incident. Event happens, system alerts, analyst confirms incident. Second, on the exam, if you see raw log data, think event. If you see a notification, think alert. If you see a confirmed attack requiring response, think incident. Third, in real life, use both CISSP for known threats and UEBA for anomalies. And always investigate before calling something an incident. Now that you understand how to detect and classify security events, and you know the manager's goal of moving from reactive to proactive, let's walk through the 6 phases of the incident response lifecycle, starting with preparation, because that is where the real work begins. Now that you understand how to detect events and turn them into incidents, let me walk you through what happens next. When a real incident occurs, you cannot afford to guess. You need a repeatable, battle-tested process. That process is the incident response lifecycle. It has 6 phases: preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. Let me tell you a story that shows why this order matters. A few years ago, a company got hit by ransomware. Their first instinct was to delete the malware files. They skipped containment and went straight to eradication. While they were deleting files, the ransomware was still spreading to other servers. By the time they deleted the malware on one system, 5 more were encrypted. They learned the hard way: order matters. Let me break down each phase. Preparation is the most important phase. This is where you do your work before anything happens. 3 key things happen here. First, you establish your CERT, the Computer Security Incident Response Team. This is not just the technical people. A good CERT includes a coordinator, a technical lead, a communications person, legal counsel, HR, and management representation. You need to know who calls whom at 2 a.m. You need to have their phone numbers. You need to have backup people in case someone is on vacation. The CERT is your fire department. You do not build it when the fire starts. Second, you write playbooks. A playbook is a step-by-step procedure for a specific type of incident. Ransomware playbook. Data breach playbook. Denial of service playbook. Each playbook tells your team exactly what to do, in what order. Do not make your team invent the process during a crisis. The playbook is their map. Third, you create clean, offline backups. A backup is clean if you have verified that it is not infected. An offline backup is stored on media that is not connected to your network, tape, external drive that is physically disconnected, or cloud storage with immutability. Ransomware cannot encrypt offline backups. But you must test them. A backup you have never tested is not a backup, it is a hope. Detection and analysis is where you confirm that an incident is actually happening. You collect logs, correlate alerts, interview users, and determine the scope and impact. Is this a single compromised workstation or a full network breach? Is it still happening? Which systems are affected? Do not jump to containment until you have enough information. Containment is where you stop the bleeding. You isolate affected systems. You pull the network cable. You block IP addresses. You disable compromised accounts. The goal is to prevent the incident from spreading while you prepare to remove the root cause. Remember, contain first, then eradicate. Eradication is where you remove the root cause. You delete the malware. You patch the vulnerability. You reset passwords. You close the back door. But you only do this after containment. If you eradicate before containing, the attacker may still be moving laterally, and you will be playing whack-a-mole. Recovery is where you bring systems back online. You restore from clean backups. You verify that the systems are functioning normally. You monitor for any signs that the attacker has returned. Recovery is not done until business operations are back to normal. Lessons learned is the phase that most organizations skip. That is a mistake. After the incident is closed, you hold a blameless post-mortem. What worked? What did not? What would you do differently? You update your playbooks, your policies, and your training. Skipping lessons learned means you pay the full price of the breach but keep none of the defensive value. From a business perspective, these 6 phases are not optional. Regulators expect them. Customers expect them. And your team will be lost without them. Here is a piece of advice I want you to take to heart. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. The teams that recover in hours instead of weeks did their hardest work before the incident ever started. They prepared when there was no fire. They built their CERT, wrote their playbooks, tested their backups, and ran their tabletop exercises when the only thing on fire was their coffee. That is the difference between chaos and control. Now, let me ask you a question. A company writes incident response playbooks, establishes a CERT, and creates offline backups. What phase of the incident response lifecycle is this? A. Detection and analysis. B. Containment. C. Preparation. D. Recovery. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Preparation. All of these activities happen before any incident occurs. Option A, detection and analysis, happens during an incident. Option B, containment, happens after detection. Option D, recovery, happens after eradication. So the correct answer is C. Now, let me ask you another question. During a ransomware attack, a security analyst disconnects the affected server from the network to prevent the malware from spreading. What phase is this? A. Detection and analysis. B. Containment. C. Eradication. D. Recovery. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Containment. The analyst is stopping the bleeding by isolating the affected system. Option A, detection and analysis, would involve confirming the scope. Option C, eradication, would involve removing the malware. Option D, recovery, would involve restoring data. So the correct answer is B. Now a third question. After an incident is closed, the team meets to discuss what went well and what could be improved. They update their playbooks based on what they learned. What phase is this? A. Lessons learned. B. Eradication. C. Containment. D. Detection and analysis. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is A. Lessons learned. This is the phase that closes the loop. Option B, eradication, is about removing the root cause. Option C, containment, is about stopping the spread. Option D, detection and analysis, is about identifying the incident. So the correct answer is A. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company detects a breach. The incident response team immediately isolates the affected systems. While containment is ongoing, the team begins deleting malware files from the contained systems. Is this correct? A. Yes, because eradication should start as soon as possible. B. No, because containment must be fully completed before eradication begins on the contained systems. C. Yes, because containment and eradication can happen simultaneously. D. No, because recovery should come before eradication. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. No, containment must be fully completed before eradication begins on the contained systems. If you start deleting files while containment is still ongoing, you may miss other compromised systems or destroy evidence. Containment first, then eradication. Option A is incorrect. Option C is incorrect because they should not happen simultaneously. Option D is incorrect because recovery comes after eradication. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, skipping the preparation phase. Many organizations only think about incident response after they have a breach. That is like buying a fire extinguisher while your house is burning. Prepare before the incident. Second, confusing containment and eradication. Containment stops the bleeding. Eradication removes the cause. You cannot eradicate a cancer that is still spreading. Contain first, then eradicate. Third, skipping lessons learned. If you do not learn from an incident, you will repeat it. The blameless post-mortem is where you get better. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the 6 phases in order: preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, lessons learned. A good mnemonic is please do not call. Emergency rescue line. Second, on the exam, if you see activities like writing playbooks, building a cert, or creating offline backups, think preparation. If you see isolating systems, think containment. If you see removing malware, think eradication. If you see restoring from backups, think recovery. If you see a post-incident meeting, think lessons learned. Third, in real life, run tabletop exercises for each phase. Practice containment without eradicating. Practice eradication without recovery. Practice the handoffs between phases. Now that you understand the full incident response lifecycle, let's go deeper into the two most critical phases, containment and eradication. Because getting the order wrong is the most common mistake. We already know that containment stops the bleeding and eradication removes the root cause. But here is something many people miss: containment has two levels. Short-term containment is what you do in the first 60 seconds. Pull the network cable. Disable the compromised account. Block the malicious IP address. You do this to stop the immediate spread. It is fast, aggressive, and sometimes messy. That is fine. The goal is to stop the bleeding now. Long-term containment is what you do after the fire is out. You leave the system isolated but powered on. You do not reboot it. You do not delete files. You preserve the system for forensic analysis. Why? Because volatile evidence lives in memory. Rebooting a compromised system destroys that evidence: running processes, network connections, decrypted data in RAM. If you need to know how the attacker got in, you need that evidence. Here is a mistake I see all the time. A team detects ransomware. They pull the cable, good, short-term containment. Then they reboot the server to see if the malware comes back. By rebooting, they destroy the evidence of the attacker's entry point. They will never know which vulnerability was exploited. The attacker will use that same vulnerability next week on another server. The rule is simple. Short-term containment stops the spread. Long-term containment preserves the evidence. Do not reboot. Do not delete files. Do not patch. Isolate, preserve, and then investigate. Eradication comes after you have collected evidence. You remove the malware, patch the vulnerability, reset passwords, and close the back door. But you do this only after you have preserved what you need to learn from. Now, let me ask you a question. A security analyst detects a compromised server. They immediately disconnect it from the network. What type of containment is this? A. Long-term containment. B. Eradication. C. Short-term containment. D. Recovery. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Short-term containment. Stopping the immediate spread is the first priority. Option A, long-term containment, would involve preserving the system for forensics after the immediate threat is stopped. Option B, eradication, is removal. Option D, recovery, is restoration. So the correct answer is C. Now, let me ask you another question. After isolating a compromised server, the team wants to preserve evidence for forensic analysis. What should they avoid doing? A. Keeping the system powered on. B. Pulling the network cable. C. Rebooting the system. D. Taking a memory image. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Rebooting the system. Rebooting destroys volatile evidence in memory. Option A, keeping the system powered on, is correct for long-term containment. Option B, pulling the cable, is short-term containment. Option D, taking a memory image, is a forensic best practice. So the correct answer is C. Now a third question. Which of the following actions belongs to eradication, not containment? A. Disabling a compromised user account. B. Blocking a malicious IP address at the firewall. C. Patching the vulnerability that allowed the attack. D. Isolating an infected server from the network. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Patching the vulnerability. That removes the root cause. Options A, B, and D are all containment actions. They stop the spread but do not fix the underlying issue. So the correct answer is C. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company experiences a breach. The team isolates the affected systems, short-term containment, and then keeps them powered off but connected to a forensic workstation for imaging, long-term containment. They collect memory dumps and hard drive images. Then they eradicate the malware and patch the vulnerabilities. Finally, they restore from clean backups. What critical step did they miss? A. They never applied long-term containment. B. They eradicated before collecting evidence. C. They recovered before eradicating. D. They never applied short-term containment. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. They eradicated before collecting evidence. The order should be, contain, then preserve evidence, then eradicate, then recover. They preserved evidence, but the question says they collected evidence after containment and before eradication. That is correct. Wait, read carefully. They isolated, then kept systems powered off for imaging, collected memory dumps and hard drive images, then eradicated. That is actually the correct order. The question is tricky. The correct answer is that they did not miss a step, but that is not an option. So let me rephrase. In this scenario, they did everything correctly. The trap is that some people think they should have eradicated first. So the correct answer is none, but since we must choose, the most common mistake would be eradicating before evidence collection, which they did not do. So if the question asks what they missed, the answer is nothing. But for the purpose of the exam, remember, contain, preserve, eradicate, recover. That order is critical. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, rebooting a compromised system before collecting evidence. Rebooting destroys volatile memory. You lose running processes, network connections, and decryption keys. Second, confusing short-term containment with eradication. Pulling a cable does not fix the vulnerability. The attacker will return if you do not patch. Third, skipping long-term containment entirely. Many teams contain by pulling the cable, then immediately rebuild the system. They lose the chance to learn how the attacker got in. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, remember the 2 levels of containment: short-term, stop the bleed, and long-term, preserve the evidence. Do both. Second, on the exam, if you see a team rebooting a compromised system before forensic analysis, that is a mistake. Third, in real life, have a forensic workflow. Isolate, image, then eradicate. Never skip the evidence step. Now that you understand the nuances of containment and eradication, let's move to the forensic side of incident response, chain of custody, write blockers, and the dangers of pulling the plug. Now let's talk about the forensic side of incident response. When you need to use evidence in court, or even just in an internal investigation, you must prove that the evidence has not been altered. That is where chain of custody comes in. And to preserve evidence correctly, you need to understand write blockers, Faraday bags, and why pulling the plug can destroy your case. Let me start with a story. A company fired an employee for stealing trade secrets. The IT team, wanting to help, immediately logged into the employee's laptop to collect evidence. They opened files, copied folders, and searched through emails. By the time the forensic expert arrived, the original evidence was contaminated. The metadata showed that files had been accessed after the termination. The company could not prove that the employee had stolen the data, only that someone had looked at the files after the fact. The case collapsed. That is why chain of custody exists. Chain of custody is the documented trail of who handled the evidence, when, and what they did with it. From the moment you seize a device to the moment it is presented in court, every single person who touches it must be logged. If the chain is broken, the evidence becomes inadmissible. Now, how do you collect evidence without altering it? Two tools help you: write blockers and Faraday bags. A write blocker is a device or software that allows you to read data from a storage device but prevents any write operations. You connect the suspect hard drive to your forensic workstation through a write blocker. You can copy files, analyze data, and create images, but you cannot accidentally modify the original. Write blockers are essential for maintaining evidentiary integrity. A Faraday bag is a bag lined with conductive metal that blocks all electromagnetic signals. When you place a mobile phone or a laptop inside a Faraday bag, it cannot receive Wi-Fi, cellular, or Bluetooth signals. Why does this matter? Because if you seize a phone and it is still connected to the network, someone could remotely wipe it. A Faraday bag isolates the device, preserving the evidence. Now, what about pulling the plug? In the early days of forensics, the first instruction was always, pull the plug, disconnect power immediately. That is often wrong. Pulling the plug destroys volatile evidence, data stored in RAM, running processes, active network connections, and decryption keys. If you are dealing with a live attack and you need to preserve evidence for prosecution, you should capture the memory image before powering off. If you simply pull the plug, you lose that evidence. There is an exception. If the attack is actively spreading and your primary goal is to stop the bleeding, you pull the plug. Business continuity trumps forensics in that case. But if you have already contained the incident, and you need evidence for legal action, you preserve volatile memory first. From a business perspective, you need to decide upfront, is this a business continuity incident or a forensic investigation? Sometimes you cannot have both. Know the trade-off. Now, let me ask you a question. A forensic investigator connects a suspect hard drive to a workstation through a device that prevents any write operations. What is this device called? A. Faraday bag. B. Write blocker. C. Chain of custody log. D. Memory imager. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Write blocker. It prevents accidental modification of evidence. Option A. Faraday bag, blocks wireless signals. Option C. Chain of custody log, is documentation. Option D. Memory imager, captures RAM. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me ask you another question. A security team seizes a mobile phone from a suspect. They place it in a bag that blocks all cellular and Wi-Fi signals. Why? A. To prevent the phone from being remotely wiped. B. To preserve the battery. C. To charge the phone. D. To improve signal strength. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is A. To prevent the phone from being remotely wiped. A Faraday bag blocks signals, so an attacker cannot send a wipe command. Option B, preserve battery, is not the primary reason. Option C, charge the phone, is not relevant. Option D, improve signal, is the opposite. So the correct answer is A. Now a third question. During an incident, a forensic expert decides to capture a memory image before powering off a compromised server. What evidence would be lost if they simply pulled the plug? A. Data stored on the hard drive. B. Running processes and network connections in RAM. C. Encrypted files on the disk. D. System logs. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Running processes and network connections in RAM. This is volatile evidence. Option A, hard drive data, is non-volatile. Option C, encrypted files, remain on disk. Option D, system logs, are also on disk. So the correct answer is B. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company experiences a ransomware attack that is actively encrypting servers. The security team has two conflicting goals: stop the spread and preserve evidence for prosecution. What should they prioritize? A. Preserve evidence first, because the attacker must be prosecuted. B. Stop the spread first, because business continuity takes priority over forensics. C. Do nothing until legal counsel arrives. D. Reboot all servers immediately. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Stop the spread first. Business continuity and life safety take priority over forensic evidence. You can lose evidence but still recover the business. If you prioritize evidence over containment, you may lose everything. Option A is incorrect. Option C is incorrect, waiting makes it worse. Option D is incorrect, rebooting destroys evidence without stopping the spread. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, pulling the plug without capturing memory first. If you need evidence for court, capture the RAM image before powering off. Second, handling evidence without a write blocker. Any modification to the original data can break the chain of custody. Always use a write blocker. Third, forgetting that mobile phones can be remotely wiped. Always place seized phones in a Faraday bag immediately. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the 3 forensic tools: write blocker, prevents writes; Faraday bag, blocks wireless signals; memory imager, captures RAM. Second, on the exam, if you see a scenario where evidence might be tampered with, think chain of custody. If you see a device that could be remotely wiped, think Faraday bag. Third, in real life, decide your priority before an incident happens. Business continuity or prosecution? Know the trade-off. Now that you understand forensic best practices, let's move to the most skipped phase of incident response: lessons learned and the blameless postmortem. We already know that lessons learned is the phase most organizations skip. But let me tell you why they skip it and how to actually do it right. Because knowing that you should do a postmortem is not enough. You need to know how to run one that produces real change. First, let me explain why teams skip lessons learned. They are exhausted after the incident. They have other work piling up. They think they already know what went wrong. Or worse, they fear that a postmortem will turn into a blame session. So they skip it. That is a mistake. The teams that recover in hours instead of weeks are the ones that debrief after every incident, no matter how small. Here is how you run a blameless postmortem. You gather the entire response team, technical staff, management, communications, legal, within 1 week of the incident closing. You do not wait. Memories fade. You create a timeline of exactly what happened. From first alert to final recovery. You ask 3 questions only. What went well? What did not go well? What would we do differently? No names. No blame. Only process. Then you translate those answers into action. Each "what would we do differently" becomes a task. Update the playbook. Add a detection rule. Change a firewall configuration. Schedule a patch. Assign an owner and a due date. That is closing the loop. Here is a mistake I see all the time. A team holds a postmortem, identifies 10 improvements, and then does nothing. 6 months later, the same incident happens again. The postmortem without action is a ritual, not a tool. Now, let me share a practical framework you can use tomorrow. After your next incident, hold a 45-minute meeting. Spend 15 minutes on the timeline. 15 minutes on what went well and what did not. 15 minutes on actions. No more. No less. Then assign each action to a specific person with a specific due date. Review those actions in your next team meeting until they are done. From a business perspective, the organizations that get good at this reduce their dwell time, their recovery time, and their breach costs. Because they stop repeating mistakes. Now, let me ask you a question. A team holds a post-incident meeting, identifies 3 improvements, but never implements them. 6 months later, the same incident occurs again. What is the root cause? A. The incident response team is incompetent. B. The post-mortem did not translate findings into action. C. The attackers are too sophisticated. D. The detection tools are broken. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. The post-mortem did not translate findings into action. Identifying improvements is not enough, you must implement them. Option A is not the root cause. Option C is an excuse. Option D may be true, but the failure was in the process, not the tool. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me ask you another question. During a blameless post-mortem, a team member says, "John forgot to patch the server." How should the facilitator respond? A. Write down, "John forgot to patch." B. Ask, "Why was the patch not applied?" C. End the meeting. D. Recommend disciplinary action. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Ask, "Why was the patch not applied?" This shifts the focus from individual blame to process failure. Option A, writing down the name, is blame. Option C, ending the meeting, avoids the issue. Option D, disciplinary action, creates fear. So the correct answer is B. Now a third question. Which of the following is an example of an actionable postmortem finding? A. The analyst missed the alert. B. The analyst was tired. C. The alert was not configured to escalate to a secondary console. D. The analyst needs more training. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. The alert was not configured to escalate to a secondary console. This is a process fix. Option A and D blame the individual. Option B is a vague excuse. So the correct answer is C. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company has a post-mortem after every incident. They identify many improvements. However, the same types of incidents keep happening. What is the most likely missing element? A. They are not assigning owners and due dates to action items. B. They are not holding the post-mortem. C. They are blaming individuals. D. They are not using a SIEM. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is A. They are not assigning owners and due dates to action items. Without accountability, improvements never happen. Option B is false because they are holding the post-mortem. Option C may be a problem, but the root cause is lack of follow-through. Option D is not directly related. So the correct answer is A. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, holding a post-mortem but not assigning action items. A meeting without homework is just a conversation. Second, waiting too long to hold the post-mortem. If you wait a month, no one remembers the details. Do it within 1 week. Third, allowing blame to creep in. The moment you point a finger, you lose psychological safety. Reframe every who question into a why question. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, use a template. Timeline, what went well, what did not, what we will change. Assign owners and due dates. Review at the next team meeting. Second, on the exam, if you see a post-mortem that does not lead to action, the correct answer will involve lack of follow-through. Third, in real life, start with small incidents. Practice the blameless post-mortem on a false positive. Build the habit before the real breach. Now that you understand how to close the loop, let's move to business continuity and disaster recovery, how you keep the business running when everything else fails. We just walked through how to learn from an incident so you never make the same mistake twice. But let me ask you something. What happens when the incident is so severe that your entire infrastructure is gone? A fire destroys your data center. A flood takes out your headquarters. A ransomware attack encrypts your primary and backup servers. That is when you stop thinking about incident response and start thinking about survival. That is where business continuity and disaster recovery come in. These two plans are constantly confused. They sound similar, they are related, but they are not the same. Confusing them will cost you on the exam and in real life. Let me fix that for you right now. Let me give you a simple analogy. Imagine a hospital after a major earthquake. The disaster recovery plan is about fixing the building, restoring power, repairing the operating rooms, getting the MRI machine back online. It is technical, it is focused on IT and facilities, and it answers the question, how do we get our infrastructure back? The business continuity plan is about keeping the patients alive while the building is being fixed. Moving patients to a tent hospital. Using paper charts instead of electronic records. Calling in extra nurses. It is about people, processes, and operations. It answers the question, how does the business continue to function during the disruption? Here is the key insight. The disaster recovery plan is a subset of the business continuity plan. You cannot have business continuity without disaster recovery, but disaster recovery alone is not enough. You can restore all your servers, but if your employees cannot get to the building, or if your call center is offline, the business is still not operating. From a business perspective, the most common mistake is focusing only on disaster recovery and ignoring business continuity. You test your server backups, but you never test your call center's ability to work from home. Then a flood hits, the servers are fine, but the call center is closed. Your business is still down. Now, let me ask you a question. A company experiences a fire in its headquarters. The building is uninhabitable, but the servers are intact in a remote data center. The IT team restores the servers from backups. However, employees cannot access the systems because they have no alternate workspace. Which plan is missing? A. Disaster recovery plan. B. Business continuity plan. C. Incident response plan. D. Communication plan. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Business continuity plan. The DRP restored the servers, but the BCP should have included alternate work locations. Option A, DRP, was executed. Option C, Incident Response Plan, handles the immediate security response. Option D, Communication Plan, is part of BCP but not the entire missing piece. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me ask you another question. Which of the following is typically found in a disaster recovery plan but not in a business continuity plan? A. Alternate work locations. B. Manual workarounds for business processes. C. Step-by-step procedures to restore a database from backups. D. Communication with customers. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Step-by-step procedures to restore a database from backups. That is purely technical and belongs in the DRP. Options A, B, and D are business continuity activities. So the correct answer is C. Now a third question. A company's business continuity plan includes moving employees to a secondary site and using paper invoices. The disaster recovery plan includes restoring servers from backups. Which statement best describes the relationship between the two? A. The BCP is a subset of the DRP. B. The DRP and BCP are independent and should never be combined. C. The DRP is a subset of the BCP. D. The BCP and DRP are the same thing. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C, the DRP is a subset of the BCP. Business continuity is broader and includes disaster recovery. Option A is backwards. Option B is false, they are not independent. Option D is false. So the correct answer is C. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company has a robust disaster recovery plan that restores all servers within 4 hours. However, during a real disaster, the business was down for 3 days. Investigation revealed that the call center employees could not log in because the VPN concentrator was not included in the DRP. What is the root cause? A. The DRP was too focused on servers and ignored network infrastructure. B. The BCP was not aligned with the DRP. C. The employees were not trained. D. The disaster was too severe. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is A. The DRP was too focused on servers and ignored network infrastructure. The VPN concentrator is an IT component that should have been in the DRP. Option B is also true, but the immediate failure was that the DRP missed a critical IT component. Option C and D are not the root cause. So the correct answer is A. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, using the terms BCP and DRP interchangeably. They are not the same. The DRP is technical, the BCP is business. Know the difference. Second, testing the DRP but never testing the BCP. You can restore servers perfectly, but if your employees cannot work, the business is still down. Third, forgetting that the BCP must include non-IT dependencies. What about your suppliers? Your shipping partners? Your building access? The BCP is broader than IT. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the distinction with the hospital analogy. DRP fixes the building, BCP keeps the patients alive. Second, on the exam, if you see technical restoration of servers, think DRP. If you see people, processes, facilities, or workarounds, think BCP. Third, in real life, the BCP should be owned by the business, not by IT. IT provides the DRP. The business provides the BCP. Now that you understand the difference between BCP and DRP, let's look at the metrics that tie them together, RPO, RTO, and MTD, because those numbers determine what kind of recovery site you need. Now that you understand the difference between keeping the business running and restoring the technology, let me introduce the 3 numbers that connect them. These numbers are not optional. They are the language you use to tell the business what they can expect and what they must invest in. They are RPO, RTO, and MTD. Let me define each one. RPO, Recovery Point Objective. This is the maximum acceptable data loss measured in time. It answers the question, how far back can we lose data and still survive? If your RPO is 1 hour, you can afford to lose up to 1 hour of transactions. That means you must back up at least every hour. If you back up every 24 hours, your RPO is 24 hours. That means you accept losing an entire day of data. The RPO is determined by the business, not by IT. RTO, Recovery Time Objective. This is the target time to restore critical systems. It answers the question, how fast must we be back online? If your RTO is 4 hours, you need to have your systems operational within 4 hours after the disaster. The clock starts at the moment of the disaster. The RTO is also determined by the business. MTD, Maximum Tolerable Downtime. This is the absolute limit of outage before the business dies. If you exceed the MTD, the organization may fail permanently, bankruptcy, loss of customers, regulatory shutdown. The MTD is the point of no return. Here is a critical point that many people miss. RPO is independent of RTO and MTD. You can have a very short RPO, say 15 minutes, but a very long RTO, say 24 hours. That means you cannot lose much data, but you can take a long time to recover. Or you can have a very short RTO, say 1 hour, but a very long RPO, say 24 hours. That means you must recover fast, but you can lose a full day of data. RPO and RTO are not tied together. The business decides both independently. Now here is the relationship that does matter. RTO must be shorter than MTD. If your RTO is longer than your MTD, your recovery plan is worthless. You will never recover fast enough to save the business. For example, if your MTD is 24 hours, your RTO must be less than 24 hours, ideally much less. From a business perspective, these three numbers drive everything. They determine how much you spend on backups, how much you spend on recovery sites, and how much risk the business accepts. Now, let me ask you a question. A company backs up its database every hour. What is their RPO? A. 1 hour. B. 24 hours. C. 1 minute. D. It depends on the disaster. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is a 1 hour. The RPO is the maximum data loss measured in time. If you back up every hour, you accept losing up to 1 hour of data. Option B, 24 hours, would be true only if they backed up daily. Option C, 1 minute, would require backups every minute. Option D is not correct. The RPO is defined by the backup frequency, not the disaster. So the correct answer is A. Now, let me ask you another question. A company has an MTD of 48 hours for its order processing system. Which of the following RTOs would be acceptable? A. 72 hours. B. 48 hours. C. 36 hours. D. 60 hours. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. 36 hours. RTO must be strictly shorter than MTD. 36 hours is less than 48. Option B, 48 hours, is equal, but equal is risky because any delay exceeds MTD. Best practice is RTO significantly shorter than MTD. Options A and D exceed MTD and are unacceptable. So the correct answer is C. Now a third question. A disaster occurs at 2 p.m. The last backup completed at 1 p.m. The RPO is 1 hour. How much data loss is acceptable? A. 0 minutes. B. 1 hour. C. 2 hours. D. Cannot be determined. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. 1 hour. The RPO defines the maximum acceptable data loss. Since the last backup was at 1 p.m., any transactions between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. could be lost. That is 1 hour of potential data loss, which is within the RPO. So the correct answer is B. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company has an RTO of 2 hours and an RPO of 15 minutes. Their backup strategy is to take a full backup every 24 hours and transaction log backups every 15 minutes. They restore the full backup from last night and then apply all transaction logs up to 1:45 p.m. The disaster occurred at 2 p.m. How much data is lost? A. 15 minutes. B. 30 minutes. C. 0 minutes. D. 24 hours. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is A. 15 minutes. The transaction logs allow them to restore up to 1:45 p.m. The disaster was at 2 p.m. The data from 1:45 p.m. to 2 p.m., 15 minutes, is lost. That matches the RPO of 15 minutes. The full backup frequency does not matter if you have transaction logs. So the correct answer is A. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, confusing RPO with RTO. RPO is about data loss, how far back. RTO is about time to recover, how fast. Remember, RPO equals data, RTO equals time. Second, setting RTO equal to or longer than MTD. That is a fatal mistake. Your recovery plan will never save the business. Third, assuming that RPO and RTO are directly linked. They are independent. The business can choose a very short RPO and a very long RTO, or vice versa. Do not assume they must be aligned. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the definitions. RPO is data loss, backup frequency. RTO is recovery time. MTD is the survival limit. RTO must be less than MTD. RPO is independent. Second, on the exam, if you see a question about data loss, think RPO. If you see a question about time to recover, think RTO. If you see a question about business survival, think MTD. Third, in real life, negotiate these numbers with the business. They decide how much data they can lose and how long they can wait. IT decides how to meet those targets. Now that you understand these metrics, let's look at the recovery sites that help you meet them: cold, warm, and hot. Now that you understand RTO, RPO, and MTD, let me show you how those numbers translate into real infrastructure. Your RTO determines what kind of recovery site you need. The faster you need to recover, the more expensive the site. There are 3 tiers: cold, warm, and hot. Let me define each one. Cold site. This is an empty building with power, cooling, and network connectivity. No hardware. No data. No configured systems. If you need to recover here, you have to bring your own servers, install your own software, and restore your own data from backups. A cold site might take days or even weeks to become operational. It is cheap, but it only works if your RTO is measured in days, not hours. You would use a cold site for non-critical systems that can tolerate long outages. Warm site. This is a partially equipped facility. The hardware is already there: servers, storage, network gear. But the systems are not running, and the data is not current. You need to load your software, update configurations, and restore recent backups. A warm site might take hours to a day to become operational. It is more expensive than a cold site but much faster. You would use a warm site for moderately critical systems with an RTO measured in hours. Hot site. This is a fully operational, real-time replica of your primary data center. Systems are running, data is synchronized continuously or near continuously, and the site can take over production within minutes. A hot site is the most expensive option, but it supports very aggressive RTOs, measured in minutes. You would use a hot site for mission-critical systems where every minute of downtime costs a fortune. Let me give you a practical example. An e-commerce company might have a hot site for their transaction processing systems because every minute of downtime loses revenue. They might have a warm site for their reporting database because a few hours of delay is acceptable. And they might have only cold site capability for their archive storage because they can wait days to restore old records. Here is the manager rule. Choose the site based on your RTO and your budget. There is no single right answer. The business decides how much downtime they can tolerate. IT decides how much to spend to meet that target. But the decision must be driven by the business impact analysis. The BIA tells you which systems are critical and what their RTOs are. You do not guess. You do not buy a hot site for a system that can be down for 3 days. You do not buy a cold site for a system that must be back online in 1 hour. Match the site to the BIA. Now, let me ask you a question. A company has an RTO of 2 hours for its customer database. Which type of recovery site is most appropriate? A. Cold site. B. Warm site. C. Hot site. D. No site needed. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C, hot site. A 2-hour RTO is very aggressive. A cold site would take days. A warm site might take hours to a day. A hot site can restore in minutes. So the correct answer is C. Now, let me ask you another question. A company has a cold site for its archive storage. They have an RTO of 7 days for that data. Is this appropriate? A. Yes, because the RTO aligns with the cold site capability. B. No, because cold sites are too expensive. C. No, because cold sites have no power. D. Yes, but only for financial data. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is a yes, because the RTO aligns with the cold site capability. Cold sites can take days to weeks to become operational. If the business can tolerate a 7-day outage, a cold site is appropriate and cost-effective. So the correct answer is A. Now a third question. Which of the following is a characteristic of a warm site? A. No hardware installed. B. Real-time data synchronization. C. Hardware installed, but systems not running with current data. D. Fully operational with live data. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Hardware installed, but systems not running with current data. Option A describes a cold site. Options B and D describe a hot site. So the correct answer is C. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company has a hot site for its primary transaction system. During a disaster, they fail over to the hot site in 15 minutes. However, they discover that the hot site's database replication lag is 30 minutes. What is the actual RPO? A. 15 minutes. B. 30 minutes. C. 45 minutes. D. Not affected. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. 30 minutes. The hot site restores quickly, RTO, but the data loss is determined by the replication lag. If the replication is 30 minutes behind, the RPO is 30 minutes. This is a common mistake. Hot site does not automatically mean zero data loss. You must monitor replication lag. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, buying a hot site for systems with a long RTO. You are wasting money. Match the site to the requirement. Second, assuming a hot site means zero data loss. Replication can lag. You must measure and manage RPO separately. Third, forgetting to test the failover. A hot site that has never been tested is not a hot site, it is an expensive cold site. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the 3 tiers: cold, empty building, days to weeks; warm, hardware installed, hours to days; hot, fully operational, minutes. RTO drives the choice. Second, on the exam, if you see days, think cold site. If you see hours, think warm site. If you see minutes, think hot site. Third, in real life, document your RTO for each system and choose the recovery site accordingly. Test your failover at least annually. Now that you understand recovery sites, let's move to the foundation of all recovery, the 3-2-1 backup rule and the different backup types. Now let's talk about the foundation of all recovery, backups. You can have the most sophisticated recovery site in the world, but if your backups are corrupt or missing, you have nothing to restore. The 3-2-1 rule is the industry standard for backup resilience. It is simple, but most organizations do not follow it. Let me state the rule clearly. 3 copies of your data, stored on 2 different media types, with 1 copy kept off-site and offline. Let me break that down. 3 copies. The original data counts as 1 copy. You need 2 additional backups. That means you have 3 total copies. If one copy is corrupted, you still have 2 others. 2 different media types. Do not store all your backups on the same kind of media. For example, if you store all backups on hard drives, a bad batch of drives could wipe out all copies. Use at least 2 different media, for example, hard drives and tape, or hard drives and cloud storage. This protects against manufacturing defects and environmental failures. 1 copy off-site and offline. This is the most important and most ignored part. Off-site means geographically separated from your primary data center. If your building burns down, the off-site copy survives. Offline means not connected to the network. Ransomware cannot encrypt a backup that is on a tape in a vault, or on an external drive that is physically disconnected. Offline backups are your last line of defense against ransomware. Now, let me talk about the 3 common backup methods. You need to understand the trade-offs between speed, storage space, and restore time. Full backup. Every file is copied. This is the slowest to create and uses the most storage space. But it is the fastest to restore. You need only 1 backup set. A full backup is your foundation. You should take full backups regularly, but they are expensive in time and storage. Incremental backup. Only the data that has changed since the last backup, full or incremental, is copied. Incremental backups are very fast and use very little storage. But they are slow and fragile to restore. To restore, you need the last full backup plus every single incremental backup taken since then. If any incremental backup in the chain is corrupted, you cannot restore past that point. Differential backup. Only the data that has changed since the last full backup is copied. Differential backups are slower than incremental but faster than full. Storage usage is moderate. Restoration is much faster than incremental because you need only the last full backup and the last differential backup, 2 files total. Here is the manager rule that I want you to take to heart. A backup you have never tested is not a backup, it is just a hope. You must test your restores. Schedule automated test restores. Do not wait for a disaster to discover that your backups are corrupt. From a business perspective, the 3-2-1 rule is not optional for critical data. If you cannot afford to lose the data, you cannot afford to skip the rule. Now, let me ask you a question. The 3-2-1 backup rule requires 3 copies of data on 2 different media types. What is the third requirement? A. 1 copy in the cloud. B. 1 copy encrypted. C. 1 copy off-site and offline. D. 1 copy on tape. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. 1 copy off-site and offline. Off-site protects against physical disasters. Offline protects against ransomware. Option A. Cloud storage can be off-site but is not offline unless you use immutable storage with air gap. Option B. Encryption is good but not part of the 3-2-1 rule. Option D. Tape is 1 media type but not required. So the correct answer is C. Now, let me ask you another question. A company takes a full backup every Sunday and differential backups every other day. On Thursday, the primary storage fails. What backups are needed to restore? A. Only the full backup from Sunday. B. The full backup from Sunday and the differential backup from Wednesday. C. The full backup from Sunday and all differential backups from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. D. Only the differential backup from Wednesday. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. The full backup from Sunday and the differential backup from Wednesday. Differential backups include all changes since the last full backup. You only need the last full and the last differential. Option C describes incremental backups. So the correct answer is B. Now a third question. Which backup method is the fastest to perform but the slowest and most fragile to restore? A. Full backup. B. Differential backup. C. Incremental backup. D. Mirror backup. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Incremental backup. It is fast because it only copies changed data. But it is slow to restore because you need the full backup plus every incremental in sequence. If one incremental is corrupted, the chain breaks. Option A, full backup, is slow to perform but fast to restore. Option B, differential, is a balance. So the correct answer is C. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company uses incremental backups every hour. They have a full backup from Sunday at midnight. On Wednesday at 10 a.m., the database is corrupted. The last good incremental backup is from Tuesday at 6 p.m. The incremental backups from Tuesday at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and 9 p.m. are corrupted. Can the company restore to Tuesday at 6 p.m.? A. Yes, using the full backup and the incremental chain up to Tuesday 6 p.m. B. No, because the chain is broken, they cannot restore past the corruption. C. Yes, because differential backups are used. D. No, because full backups are only weekly. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is a yes, using the full backup and the incremental chain up to Tuesday 6 p.m. The corruption of later backups does not affect earlier restores. As long as they have all incrementals up to Tuesday 6 p.m., they can restore to that point. The corrupted later backups only prevent restoring to later times. This is a nuanced point. The exam likes to test this. So the correct answer is A. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, keeping all backups on the same media type. If that media fails, you lose everything. Use at least 2 different media types. Second, storing backups online and connected to the network. Ransomware will encrypt them. Keep one copy offline. Third, never testing backups. A backup that has never been restored is not a backup. Test regularly. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the 3-2-1 rule, 3 copies, 2 media types, 1 off-site and offline. Second, on the exam, if you see a scenario about ransomware encrypting backups, the missing control is an offline copy. Third, in real life, automate test restores. Do not wait for a disaster to find out your backups are bad. Now that you understand the 3-2-1 rule and backup types, let's move to disaster recovery testing methods, how you prove that your plan actually works. You have a plan. You have backups. You have a recovery site. But if you have never tested them, you do not have a disaster recovery capability, you have a disaster recovery fantasy. Testing is not optional. It is how you prove that your plan works, that your team knows what to do, and that your RTOs are achievable. There are 5 levels of testing, from lowest risk to highest risk. Let me walk you through each one. Read through. This is the simplest test. You hand out the disaster recovery plan to the team and ask them to read it. That is it. No roleplay. No system changes. 0 operational risk. The value is minimal, you confirm that people have read the document. But you do not know if they understand it or if the document is correct. Tabletop. This is a facilitated discussion. The team gathers in a conference room. You present a scenario, for example, the data center is on fire. You go around the room. The network lead says what they would do. The server lead says what they would do. The application lead says what they would do. You walk through the plan step by step without actually doing anything. This uncovers gaps, missing steps, and conflicting responsibilities. It is low risk and very effective. Simulation. This is a functional exercise with physical movement, but production systems remain untouched. You might simulate a network outage by disconnecting a test lab. The team physically goes through the motions, they go to the backup site, they power on equipment, they run scripts. But they do not cut over production. This gives you confidence that the procedures work without risking real downtime. Parallel. This is the first test that involves production systems. You bring the recovery site online and run it alongside your primary site. The recovery site processes live traffic or real data, but the primary site remains active. If something goes wrong, you simply fail back to the primary. Parallel testing safely tests actual load and real data processing. It is the most realistic test that still has a safety net. Full interruption. This is the highest risk test. You actually shut down the primary site and fail over to the recovery site. Production runs from the recovery site for a period of time, then you fail back. This is the only test that truly validates your RTO and RPO. But if the test fails, you have a real outage. Full interruption testing is usually done only after successful parallel tests and only for non-critical systems first. Now let me explain the manager rule. Always validate a new plan with the least disruptive method first, that is tabletop. Why? Because when you start with a tabletop, you find the big gaps, missing steps, wrong contact information, conflicting responsibilities, before you invest time and money in building infrastructure or running live tests. Fixing those gaps after a tabletop costs nothing. Fixing them after a failed full interruption test costs you an outage. The tabletop is your map. You do not build a house without looking at the blueprint. You do not test a disaster recovery plan without walking through it first. Start with tabletop, then move to simulation, then parallel, then, if you must, full interruption. Do not start with a full interruption test on your most critical system. That is how careers end. From a business perspective, the most common mistake is skipping testing entirely because it is too disruptive. Then a real disaster happens, and your plan fails. A failed test is a learning opportunity. A failed disaster is a catastrophe. Now, let me ask you a question. Which testing method involves a facilitated discussion where the team walks through a scenario without touching any systems? A. Read through. B. Tabletop. C. Simulation. D. Parallel. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Tabletop. The team discusses the plan without executing it. Option A, read through, is just reading. Option C, simulation, involves physical movement. Option D, parallel, involves live systems. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me ask you another question. A company brings its recovery site online and processes live traffic alongside the primary site. If something fails, they can instantly switch back. What testing method is this? A. Simulation. B. Parallel. C. Full interruption. D. Tabletop. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Parallel. The recovery site runs alongside production. Option A, simulation, does not use live traffic. Option C, full interruption, shuts down the primary. Option D, tabletop, is discussion only. So the correct answer is B. Now a third question. Which testing method has the highest risk of causing an actual outage? A. Read through. B. Tabletop. C. Simulation. D. Full interruption. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is D. Full interruption. You actually shut down the primary site. If the failover fails, you have a real outage. Options A, B, and C have zero or minimal risk. So the correct answer is D. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company has never tested its disaster recovery plan. The new IT director insists on starting with a full interruption test on the e-commerce platform. The senior engineer recommends starting with a tabletop instead. Who is correct and why? A. The IT director is correct because only full interruption tests validate RTO. B. The senior engineer is correct because tabletop testing uncovers gaps with zero risk, and the manager rule says to start with the least disruptive method. C. The IT director is correct because full interruption tests are faster. D. The senior engineer is correct because tabletop tests are more expensive. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. The senior engineer is correct because tabletop testing uncovers gaps with zero risk, and the manager rule says to start with the least disruptive method. Option A, full interruption is the highest risk, not the starting point. Option C is false, full interruption tests are not faster. Option D is false, tabletop tests are cheaper. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, skipping tabletop and going straight to full interruption. That is like learning to swim by jumping into the deep end. Start small. Second, running a test but not documenting the results. If you do not write down what failed, you will forget. Lessons learned must be captured. Third, fixing only the technical issues and ignoring the procedural issues. A failed test often reveals that people did not know their roles. Update your playbooks and retrain. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, memorize the 5 testing levels in order of increasing risk: read through, tabletop, simulation, parallel, full interruption. Second, on the exam, if you see a scenario about a new plan, the answer will involve starting with a tabletop. Third, in real life, test at least annually. Do not wait for a disaster to find out your plan does not work. Now that you understand disaster recovery testing, let's move to physical security, natural surveillance, natural access control, and the man-trap. Now let me switch gears. We have talked about incident response, forensics, business continuity, disaster recovery, backups, and testing. But none of that matters if an attacker can simply walk into your building. Physical security is the foundation. And the best physical security does not always require expensive technology. Sometimes it is about how you design the building itself. Let me introduce 3 concepts: natural surveillance, natural access control, and the man-trap. Natural surveillance. This is about visibility. The idea is simple: people are less likely to commit crimes if they know they can be seen. Natural surveillance means designing your facility so that you can see what is happening. Large windows, open floor plans, good lighting, and clear sight lines. A parking lot with bright lights and no hiding places has natural surveillance. A reception desk that can see the entrance has natural surveillance. The goal is to make intruders feel exposed and to make it easier for legitimate users to notice something wrong. Natural access control. This is about guiding movement. You use the natural environment to direct people to the right entrances and away from restricted areas. A path that leads to the front door is natural access control. A hedge or a fence that guides visitors to the reception area. A sign that says, "Authorized personnel only," combined with a physical barrier like a plant or a low wall. The goal is to make it obvious where people should go and where they should not go, without relying solely on guards or locks. The man-trap. This is a more active control. A man-trap is a small vestibule with 2 interlocking doors. The first door opens, you enter, and it closes behind you. Only then does the second door open. You cannot open both doors at the same time. This prevents tailgating, an unauthorized person following an authorized person through a door. High-security man-traps may also include weight scales to ensure only one person is inside, or biometric scanners to verify identity before the second door opens. The man-trap is the most effective control against physical piggybacking. Here is what you need to remember. Natural surveillance makes intruders feel watched. Natural access control makes it obvious where to go and where not to go. The man-trap actively prevents tailgating. They work together. You do not choose one. You layer them. And all of them are useless if your employees hold the door for strangers. Training and culture are just as important as hardware. From a business perspective, physical security is often overlooked because it is not cyber. But a data center breach starts with physical access. An attacker who can walk into your server room can bypass every firewall, every IDS, every encryption control you have. Physical security is not optional. Now, let me ask you a question. A building uses large windows, open floor plans, and bright lighting in the parking lot to deter intruders. What is this called? A. Natural access control. B. Natural surveillance. C. Mantrap. D. Bollard. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Natural surveillance. Visibility deters crime. Option A, natural access control, is about guiding movement. Option C, mantrap, is an active physical control. Option D, bollard, is a barrier. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me ask you another question. A facility uses hedges and a paved walkway to guide visitors to the front reception desk, while a fence directs employees to a separate badge-controlled entrance. What is this called? A. Natural surveillance. B. Mantrap. C. Natural access control. D. Cipher lock. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Natural access control. The environment is designed to guide movement. Option A, natural surveillance, is about visibility. Option B, mantrap, is an active control. Option D, cipher lock, is a technology. So the correct answer is C. Now a third question. A high-security facility has a small vestibule with two interlocking doors. The first door must close and lock before the second door opens. Weight scales ensure only one person is inside. What is this called? A. Natural surveillance. B. Natural access control. C. Mantrap. D. Turnstile. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Mantrap. It is specifically designed to prevent tailgating. Option A and B are natural design concepts, not active controls. Option D, turnstile, prevents multiple entries but does not lock between doors. So the correct answer is C. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company installs a mantrap at its data center entrance. An employee badges in, enters the mantrap, and the first door closes. Before the second door opens, another employee slips in behind them. The weight scale detects the extra person and triggers an alarm. What physical security threat was prevented? A. Dumpster diving. B. Shoulder surfing. C. Tailgating. D. Baiting. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. Tailgating. Following an authorized person through a door without using your own credentials. Option A, dumpster diving, is searching trash. Option B, shoulder surfing, is watching someone type a password. Option D, baiting, is leaving malware-laden USB drives. So the correct answer is C. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, thinking that natural surveillance alone is enough. It is a deterrent, not a block. A determined intruder will not be stopped by a window. Second, forgetting to combine natural access control with active controls. A path that guides visitors is useless if there is no guard or badge reader at the end. Third, installing a mantrap but not enforcing the one-person rule. If employees hold the door for others, the mantrap is useless. Training matters. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, remember the 3 layers: natural surveillance, visibility, natural access control, guidance, man-trap, active prevention of tailgating. Second, on the exam, if you see visibility, or lighting, or windows, think natural surveillance. If you see pathways, or hedges, or directional design, think natural access control. If you see two interlocking doors, or weight scale, think man-trap. Third, in real life, conduct a physical security walkthrough. Look for blind spots. Look for unguided pathways. Test your man-traps. Now that you understand physical security, let's move to the ultimate tiebreaker, people before property. We have covered a lot of ground. Incident response, forensics, business continuity, disaster recovery, backups, testing, physical security. All of it is important. But there is one principle that overrides every single one of them. It is the ultimate tiebreaker. When you have to choose between protecting an asset and protecting a human being, the choice is not a choice at all. People before property. Let me give you an example. A fire breaks out in your data center. The fire suppression system activates. But an employee is still inside. Do you seal the room to starve the fire of oxygen? No. You ensure the employee can escape. Life safety overrides asset protection. Another example. An active shooter enters your building. Do you worry about the servers? No. You worry about evacuating people. Your incident response plan should have a clear, simple instruction: run, hide, fight. Not back up the database. Here is what this means in practice. Every security policy, every access control, every physical barrier must have an emergency override that prioritizes human egress. Doors must open from the inside without a badge. Emergency exits must not be locked. Man-traps must have emergency release buttons. The security team must be trained to release locks immediately when there is a life safety event. From a business perspective, the cost of a human life is immeasurable. No asset, no data, no amount of money is worth a human life. Security operations is not just about managing technology, it is about resiliently managing the business. And businesses are run by people. Here is the principle you must never forget. Assets can be rebuilt. Data can be restored. Reputation can be repaired. But human life cannot be replaced. When in doubt, choose the human. Now, let me ask you a question. A fire breaks out in a server room. The fire suppression system uses gas that displaces oxygen. One employee is still inside. What should the security team do first? A. Activate the fire suppression system. B. Ensure the employee can evacuate before the system activates. C. Save the backup tapes. D. Call the fire department. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Ensure the employee can evacuate before the system activates. Life safety comes first. Option A would put the employee at risk. Option C, saving tapes, is secondary. Option D, calling the fire department, is important but not the first action. So the correct answer is B. Now, let me ask you another question. A security policy requires all exterior doors to be locked from the inside to prevent unauthorized exit. Which principle does this violate? A. Need to know. B. Least privilege. C. People before property. D. Separation of duties. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is C. People before property. Locking people inside a building during an emergency is a life safety violation. Doors must open from the inside without a badge. Option A, B, and D are access control principles, not life safety. So the correct answer is C. Now a third question. During an active shooter event, a security guard is told to lock down the building to prevent the shooter from escaping. What should the guard prioritize? A. Locking the doors to trap the shooter. B. helping people evacuate to safety. C. Monitoring the security cameras. D. Backing up the server logs. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is B. Helping people evacuate to safety. Human life is the priority. Option A. Trapping the shooter, puts people at risk. Option C and D are secondary. So the correct answer is B. Now, if you are ready, here is a more challenging question. A company has a mantrap at its data center entrance. The mantrap is designed to prevent tailgating by requiring one person at a time to authenticate. During a fire alarm, an employee enters the mantrap, but the second door fails to open. The employee is trapped. What is the most critical design flaw? A. The mantrap lacks an emergency release button. B. The mantrap is too small. C. The weight scale is broken. D. The biometric scanner is misconfigured. Pause the video, think about your answer, then come back. The correct answer is A. The mantrap lacks an emergency release button. Any physical security device that can trap a person must have an emergency override. Life safety overrides access control. Option B, size, is not the critical flaw. Option C, weight scale, is for tailgating prevention. Option D, biometric misconfiguration, is a security issue, not a life safety issue. So the correct answer is A. Now, let me share 3 traps that even experienced professionals fall into. First, designing security systems without consulting fire safety codes. Many physical security controls can inadvertently create life safety hazards. Always review with fire marshals. Second, assuming that security personnel will know when to override access controls. They need training and clear procedures. Run drills. Third, forgetting that people before property applies to everyone, not just employees. Visitors, contractors, and even arrested intruders have a right to safety. Here are 3 tips to lock this in. First, every security policy should have a life safety override clause. If in doubt, err on the side of human life. Second, on the exam, if you see a conflict between asset protection and human safety, the correct answer will always prioritize people. Third, in real life, conduct regular life safety drills. Test emergency egress. Verify that doors open from the inside without badges. Now that you understand the ultimate tiebreaker, let's bring everything together with 3 managerial takeaways that you can use to guide your security operations program. We have covered a lot of ground in this video. Let me leave you with 3 principles that summarize the entire manager's playbook for security operations. If you remember nothing else, remember these 3. First, risk-aligned recovery. Match your recovery architecture strictly to the business's maximum tolerable downtime. Do not buy a hot site for a system that can be down for 3 days. Do not buy a cold site for a system that must be back online in 1 hour. The business impact analysis tells you which systems are critical and what their RTOs and RPOs are. You do not guess. You do not buy the most expensive option. You buy the option that matches the risk. That is how you manage a budget. Second, containment supremacy. Stop the bleeding before curing the infection. Isolate spreading threats instantly. Pull the network cable. Disable the compromised account. Block the malicious IP address. Do not start deleting files. Do not start patching vulnerabilities. Contain first, then eradicate. The teams that fail are the ones that try to cure while the attacker is still moving laterally. Containment first is not optional. Third, life safety first. Assets can be rebuilt. Data can be restored. Reputation can be repaired. But human life cannot be replaced. When a fire breaks out, evacuate the people before you protect the servers. When an active shooter enters, get people to safety. Every security policy must have a life safety override. Doors must open from the inside without a badge. Man-traps must have emergency release buttons. This is not just ethics. It is the law in most jurisdictions. And it is the right thing to do. These three principles apply whether you are responding to a ransomware attack, planning a disaster recovery test, or designing a physical security system. Risk-aligned recovery, containment supremacy, and life safety first. Security operations is not just about managing technology. It is about resiliently managing the business. And businesses are run by people. You have completed Domain 7. I am proud of the work you put in. Now go take these principles into your exam and into your career. I will see you in the next domain.